Hey, what is up guys, I'm KBHD here, and welcome to the 2018 What's on My Smartphone video. Now I'm pretty sure I've mentioned at least once or twice in previous videos that my setup does not change that much from year to year on my phone. Now fair warning to those of you who saw last year's video, a lot of the apps are going to look very similar to that. I didn't do this video over and over again because what's on my phone was mostly the same.
The setup I have is usually pretty simple, and this is because I switch phones pretty often during the course of the year.
Nevertheless, here we are. People have asked for it. I'm showing it to you again. One of the more interesting questions I get from friends like outside of this is, isn't it annoying to change your phone, like switch your whole setup and transfer everything over and over again every time you change phones? Isn't that annoying after a while? And the answer is yes, but I've kind of streamlined it in a way. I mean, Google handles a lot of the migration of that stuff. Usually it's not that big of a deal. And then I kind of streamline it so it's nearly the same every time, and I know exactly when I'm done setting everything up. But anyway, I'm carrying two phones, as I've mentioned, and I did last year, 2 pockets, 2 phones, and it's my favorite Android phone right now and my favorite iPhone right now. Same thing as last year. So this iPhone 10 in silver is my second most used phone. It's good for a lot of those camera things like Snapchat, Instagram Live, the occasional Periscope, things that iOS is good at. And there's also a couple of apps, some specific VR games and things like that that are only on iOS right now. So I just kind of always have an iPhone in my pocket. But if you saw Lou's video from CES a couple weeks ago, earlier this year, then you already know that the main phone in my pocket is the Panda Google Pixel 2 XL. But I still love this phone for all those same reasons that I loved back when I reviewed it a couple months ago, and I keep coming back to it for those same reasons. So this is my setup. All right, so first of all, wallpaper. I'll definitely link that below. People have asked about it. I've tweeted about it recently. It's a little bit of a blue canyon, but this is the setup to start, and I'll just give you that sort of a walkthrough. Basically, I've said this before, but I use the Google stock launcher for a couple of reasons, but mainly because a lot of the features that end up getting really popular and are really useful in third-party apps like Nova Launcher slowly make their way into this stock launcher. Now, this side piece here with the Google News and all these cards, it's decently useful, but I use it a little bit less because it's actually gotten worse. You can't swipe away cards anymore. Like if you're not interested in something, you can't swipe it away to get rid of it, and that's pretty annoying. So it just kind of ends up filled with things that I'm not interested in, which is pretty dumb. You should let us remove stuff. Like this, what is it? I don't care about half of this stuff. Anyway, this is the home screen. I got the weather up top and the date. That's cool. I don't really use a whole ton of space. So you can see, again, like I mentioned, it's pretty darn similar to the last time I showed it. So here's my apps at the bottom. I switched to TickTick, which is my task manager app now. It's really clean and it syncs with itself. It doesn't really use Google Tasks, but it's still pretty good. And then I use Google Keep to manage lists like grocery lists. So those are the 2 must-use apps for me. Instagram, y'all are familiar with that. I use it all the time. Yahoo Fantasy Sports, I'm doing a lot worse this year than I was in previous years, although I do think, oh, it's a new week, but I did win my last week, which is pretty good. My fantasy team is, it's all right. I had a late pick. What are you gonna do? There's Google Photos, there's Google Maps, there's YouTube Studio. I think pretty much every YouTuber ever has YouTube Studio on their phone. You could use it to answer comments, keep track of videos, things like that. That's all there. Spotify, my #1 music player of choice. The Tesla app, that's how you warm up your car before you go outside in the freezing cold to get to it, and all the other management stuff. I've done a video all on that app. And then Relay Pro, which is my Reddit app of choice. People seem to ask every time I show this, like, why do you use Relay Pro? Yes, there are other pretty good Reddit apps for Android. This one just happens to be really familiar to me at this point. But anyway, I also use this to manage the MKBHD subreddit, which we're using a little bit more now. If you head over to our MKBHD, we're starting to experiment with that, getting video suggestions there and things like that. So I'll link that below if you're interested. And then of course at the bottom are the mainstays, the phone, the Messenger, the Play Store, the camera app, and then Flamingo is my Twitter app of choice. I'm pretty sure when I did this video last time of the year, it was Phoenix. They started messing around with a beta that I'm not as interested in, but Flamingo, which is another bird, is another Twitter app for Android that's really good, remembers my spot in the timeline, does everything well. It's pretty material, it's good. So Flamingo, I'll link that below as well. Now I'm gonna swipe over to my second home screen here, and this is my calendar app. The full screen calendar widget, it's the exact same that I used last time I was showing my phone, but you'll notice it's kind of buggy. Now I can turn up the opacity and stuff to show this better depending on my wallpaper, but I'm cool with it because it always highlights the top one. But it always says loading at the top of each day. Loading, loading. That's not because it's actually loading, that's just an Android 8.0 bug that this app just has. Now I haven't switched to another full screen calendar widget because I still like the looks and the functionality of this one and how good it is. I use Google Calendar for my life, but if you're the developer of this app, can you please update this for Android 8.0 please? I'd really like it to actually say the date above each day. Thank you. Anyway, going over to the third and final home screen, it's the shortcuts that I use, just the apps that I'm using pretty often around now. So Wallet, PayPal, and Passes. I don't even use Google Wallet that often, but this Passes app I use literally just because of the car wash I go to, which happens to have a royalty program. Every 10 car washes, you get an 11.3. It doesn't work with Google Wallet, so I use Passes. I think it's actually meant for iPhone. And then Dark Sky for weather. This is another one that started off really popular as an iPhone app that's made its way over to Android over the years. It's almost as good on Android as it is on iOS. It still has some bugs though. But my main weather app is AccuWeather, as you'll see when I go to my app drawer. We have Waze. I discovered this recently, like in the past year. Turns out it's an incredible app for avoiding traffic and avoiding tickets. Nest, I've showed that before. I've got a couple Nest cameras. That's the security suite, that's the thermostat, that whole thing. The Authenticator app. Pocket Cast is pretty new to me. I guess basically during flights, I have to figure out a way to pass the time, and music kind of gets old after a long time, so the Pocket Cast app with a couple good podcasts can be pretty good. If you have any good podcast suggestions, definitely hit me up in the comments below. I have the United app. That's just because I fly United a lot, and my boarding pass is in there. The HealthMate app from Nokia. This actually used to be something else, but then Nokia bought them, and then now I have a scale that like talks to the app. It tells me how much, it's whatever. And then the Google Home app, which is all of the Google Home devices you have, of course, if you have the shopping list. I think they ruined the shopping list. I just want to rant about that for a second. You used to be able to say, talk to Google and add something to your shopping list, and then it would show up in Google Keep in a list called Shopping List. Now, if you want to add something to your shopping list, for some weird reason, they changed it to show up in here inside the shopping list, which opens in your web browser to this shoppinglist.google.com. Why they did this, I will probably never know. They should definitely switch it back to talking to Google Keep. Anyway, last but not least, YouTube. It's a pretty great site I've found recently. They do some interesting stuff over here if you want to check it out. They host a lot of videos. I'll share a link below. But that's basically it for the home screen layout. Those are the apps, the shortcuts you see pretty often. Those are the things I'm clicking the most. Anyway, I'll finish it up with the last scroll through all the apps that I have on my phone but didn't make it to my home screen. Again, a lot of stuff pretty similar to last year, but my main weather app of choice is AccuWeather Platinum. It's super accurate and it's awesome. I also have AfterShip up here in my most recent. That's pretty good for tracking just about any package. Anytime you copy a tracking number to your clipboard and open up AfterShip, it asks you if you want to paste it and track it. It's really good. It syncs across platforms. Backdrops is, again, still pretty awesome for finding wallpapers. Chrome Canary is also a lot of fun. Fun for showing new features that are coming to the main version of Chrome, but also it's unstable. It literally has unstable in the name. It's hilarious. I have Coinbase. That's a thing that's new to me, obviously, cryptocurrency in the past year or two. Let's see, you got Daydream VR, Dropbox is pretty common. You have the Jaybird Sound app for messing with the sound of your headphones. The NBA app, it's all right. It gives me notifications when cool things happen. But scrolling down, that's pretty much it. I have Pocket. I do use that a lot. Screener, I use once in a while, but it's awesome for sharing screenshots that are really pretty. And then I get down here to Uber and Venmo and ZocDoc and YouTube TV, and that's pretty much it for the setup on my main phone. Like I said, it's pretty similar to the last year, but if you don't know, now you know. People were asking for it, so now you have it. Maybe in a year, if my setup is actually different, I'll be able to share that, but for the most part, I'm expecting it to stay roughly similar, so I'll link you to this video. How's that? So that's it. Thank you for watching. Talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.